Storytime about the most outrageous thing I saw working as a waitress. A guy came in with his date one night, and throughout the evening, he was the picture of courtesy and good manners. I appreciated it, but didn't delude myself that I was a source and figured he was just in a good mood because the date was going well. He was certainly in a celebratory mood because he was sparing no expense. He asked for our highest quality wine, she got our most expensive entree, and he even ordered one of every appetizer for her to sample when she made a remark that she was having trouble deciding. It was a real feast. So the evening starts wrapping up and I get their check. I asked if they'd be paying together or separate, and she starts to say separate, but he makes a big deal of saying, "Oh, are you kidding me? Together, definitely together. You never have to pay when you're with me, babe." Then he slides me his card. I get everything sorted and bring out the receipt. It's almost a $300 bill. He doesn't even blink and makes a big show of leaving a $100 tip. He thanks me for my service and emphasizes what a lovely night they've had. A tip that size is exceptional, so I thanked him profusely. He said there's no need and goes on to say how underappreciated waitstaff are and says, "Don't plan to tip, don't eat out, you know?" Looking at the mesmerized girl the whole time and not giving me a glance. After that, he helps her into her coat and they go off. However, not even a few minutes later, he comes back and what he says leaves me speechless. Part 2 of the most outrageous thing I saw while working as a waitress. So about 90 seconds later, he's back in the door without her, going, "I think I left my..." Then when the door shut and looking to make sure she was out of earshot, he goes, without the slightest shade of shame or embarrassment, "Mark the tip down to $20, hun. I was just playing it up for my date. You understand." Then turns to leave. I understood, but not how he hoped I would. However, I couldn't make a scene in the middle of work. That's not my place, so I just said one more time in order to give his conscience a chance to sink in. "Okay, sir, you'd like to amend your tip from $100 to $20, is that correct?" Even though I didn't show any displeasure in my voice, he shot back extremely hostile, "Yes, and if I see a cent over 20 on there, I'm going to dispute the whole meal with my credit vendor, so don't try to pull anything." The most frustrating part of this for me was not even going from over a 30% tip to a 10% tip, but rather that this poor girl was being strung along with no idea of who this guy was behind her back. It was extremely manipulative of him, which was a major red flag. I really wanted to show that girl the trick he just pulled, but I was at work and it wasn't my place. However, just in time, something occurred to me and I darted outside hoping to catch him in the parking lot. Part 3 of the most outrageous thing I saw while working as a waitress. I got lucky because he parked on the street and he was dealing with the parking meter. I flagged him down and ran across the street, nearly stumbling into traffic in my haste for this delicious moment. His date was already in the car but rolled her window down since no one expects the waitress to follow you to your car waving her arms like a crazy person. I made it across and said more than loudly enough for her to hear, "Sir, we amended your tip from $100 down to $20 as you requested, but you'll need to fill out a different receipt reflecting your new total for our records. This is just a bookkeeping regulation that goes way above me. It has nothing to do with you retroactively downgrading your tip from $100 to $20. We're just glad you enjoyed your evening." His jaw was on the floor. He tried to pretend like he didn't know what I was talking about, giving me some line about how I must be after someone else since he only came back because he forgot his keys. However, I wouldn't let it rest. The more he played dumb, the more I repeated versions of, "You wanted me to change your tip from 100 to 20, you came back in," and so on. He finally went, "Okay, whatever, sorry for the miscommunication. If you need me to fill out a new receipt, I can." I'm guessing he didn't have the money in his account because he signed the new receipt. His girlfriend was visibly shocked and he was staring daggers through me. You could feel the rage emanating off of him. Then they drove off. Hopefully he'll never do that again.
Story time. My clients stole from me. When I was taking clients, I had a policy where they're allowed to bring one guest with them. So that's what my client did. And they also had big bags on them, but I didn't really think much of it. And she only came for a soak off. And since I was working at home at the time, I didn't have a sink in my room. So I had to go out to my kitchen to get hot water so the soak off is quicker. And I'm assuming at that time, that's when they grabbed a handful of my materials and just put it in their bag. And I didn't notice until the next day since she was my last client and it was just a soak off. When I went to go message her, I noticed that she created a nail page saying she's taking clients. And her first post was all the material she has and they were all mine. And I could even call the cops because I was working from home and there's no evidence. So after that, I installed cameras everywhere.
I have a 16-year-old babysitter who watches my 4 and 8-year-old. She watches my kids from 9 to 7 from Monday through Saturday, so I asked if she liked anything stocked up in the pantry or the fridge. She mentioned that she really likes seltzer water and I bought them for the first month, but honestly, I forgot after a while and never kept any in the fridge. A few days ago, I bought hard seltzers for me and my husband and didn't think anything of it. While I'm at work, she messaged me to say if I can come home early because she's not feeling well. I asked her to try and hold out until the end of the day. Not too long after, she called me crying, saying that something was wrong and she had to go home. She was drunk clearly. She had drank the hard seltzers that were in the fridge. I told her to leave and she walked home. She called me the next day crying that she didn't know that the hard seltzers had alcohol in them. Both her parents were alcoholics and she was diagnosed with